Okay, I'm live. Can you hear me if you click on it?
I think it's yeah.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, we got nobody here, but if nobody shows up, then I guess we just cancel.
Well, I can send out an email here. I haven't sent out the reminder email yet. So.
Okay, yeah, go ahead. Oh, we got two people here. Yay, Cindy and Dora made it. Might just be us, everybody. Oh, we got a few people hopping in. Oh boy, I'll tell you, you guys, I have no idea what YouTube does to me. They don't know what they do to me, you know? I mean, they're gonna make me lose my mind eventually because I hook everything up. There's no difference in the way we do it, but for some reason, first the microphone didn't work, and then when I retried, it just kept scrolling and it wouldn't let us come in. And then the third time we tried, it had this weird picture of this goofy looking television that I'd never seen before. And the fourth time, ta-da, here we are. So thank you all for your patience and coming back. And if it ever happens like this, you know that we keep trying. You just have to go back to the page and find the one that's current and click on it. But it's so aggravating. And I'm, like I say, Terry's out of town today. He's at a conference. So he's not back for a little bit and I'm on my own. But Alex is here. So he was helping me get everything organized and straightened out. And I thank you all for being so patient. Oh, man, that just drives me absolutely insane. Tell you, if anything can get me, steal my joy, that steals it. And, I was actually going to say that I had just a really wonderful day today, so, which I did. It was a busy day today. Today we had two of our scrap busting Zoom sessions, which were wonderful. Oh my gosh, you should see the quilts everybody's creating. So those who are participating in the scrap busting challenge, we have a Zoom session every week for 5 weeks or 4 weeks. 5 Zoom sessions. And so we just share and talk and get some new ideas on how to do things and talk with each other on the problems we've been having and things. And it was so successful. We had so many wonderful entries. So that really gave me a huge merry moment for today. And, I miss Terry and I wish he was here. I have the dog and the cat, just not the same. And they don't talk much and they're quite demanding, I must say. But anyway, I've been sewing pretty much all of the day and trying to get different projects that I'm working on caught up. And so I've just been having a really good time and looking forward to meeting with all of you tonight. I actually have this really cool ruler that I got. And I'm telling you, there are so many unbelievable rulers out there and different quilting tools. I've got a couple things I want to show you here that I came across. Where do people come up with these things and think about them? I don't know, but they certainly do make my life more fun when they come in the mail. So I'm going to show you a couple of items that came in the glue category. Now we do have a really fun seminar, I guess you'd call it, that's coming up on March 22nd, which is National Quilting Day. It's an hour-long, maybe a little longer session where we're going to talk about adhesives. And I've got a great pattern that you'll get as part of it. All kinds of fun things. Alex will put a link if anybody's interested. I know some of you have already signed up. Right now, it's really cheap. It's only $5 to sign up, but the price is going to go up considerably once we announce it in March as our promo for National Quilting Day. But since you all are around all the time and you are our supporters, we wanted to give you first opportunity to sign up and join in. And so anyway, it's going to be really fun. And I'm telling you, I keep getting more and more stuff that I want to add to it. So I'm hoping that it doesn't take all day. It supposedly is going to take an hour or so, and it's on National Quilting Day. March is National Quilting Month. And so this is a month that we dedicate towards quilting, and it just doesn't get any better than that. So I'm trying to come up with all sorts of things that we can talk about during the month of March, not only that's quilting related, but that's going to just really advance our quilting experiences and help us to get better at it. That's kind of what it's for. It's not only to make others aware of quilting, which that's a huge part of it. We want to spread the quilting word, but we also want to grow as quilters ourselves. Now, when I was in a quilt guild years ago, we, years and years ago, we would always set up a hand quilting frame at the local Joann's. We know what's happened to Joann's. If you haven't heard, all the stores are closing. Originally we had hoped that someone would buy the remaining stores. They closed a bunch. Ours has been closed for a long time. And we had hoped, everyone had hoped that for those who really have no stores in their area, and Joann's was kind of their go-to, especially for our Project Linus people. We were just hoping that something would remain, but turns out nothing's going to. It's all being liquidated. And do you all remember back when we had Cloth World and we had Sofro, and there were all those different ones, and they keep evolving. So we know that something new will happen and something will come forward. But the good part about all of this is it's really highlighted our local quilt shops. And I know a lot of people will say, oh, I can't afford the prices, but you can watch many of our local quilt shops. They have sales all the time. And there are classes that you can take advantage of. There are bargains in so many ways. There are patterns that we as quilters share with you all on how to use up those fabrics that we have and how to make the best out of what we have. So, we can balance things out. We can help each other along, and hopefully that's what's going to happen. That in spite of this change, this major change for a lot of quilters, that this is going to give a boost to our local businesses, because that is really, what would we do without our local quilt shops and all the things that we learned from there? I'm telling you, no offense to Joann's, but I never took a class there. I know they used to offer them, but recently there hasn't been any. Where I learned all my skills are from quilters, and our local quilt shops, especially in my area. We have several that are my absolute favorites, and they bend over backwards to try and make a quilting experience positive. And I'm sure you all have those same stories. So please advertise and patronize your local shops when possible, and let them know that we are happy that they are in business and we are here to support them, because there's just no other way. If we don't have that, who do we have? We have to support those who are promoting the craft in order to keep it alive. And so hopefully that's what we'll do. But okay, I want to show you a couple things that I've got here. And I do have the camera that I'll put in the down position when I show you the ruler. But right now I got, okay, this is my go-to, right? My Elmer's washable glue stick glue. I use this all the time. I am always using my glue stick. I am also using my Elmer's school glue when I do other sorts of things. I've got this as well. And that's just kind of, it works for so many different things. It has its downside, of course. We know that when we use it, that we have to be careful of certain things. But then someone told me about, actually, I watched a tutorial about this Scotch repositionable glue stick. Now I've showed this, I don't remember if I showed it here or if I showed it on Daytime Quilting, but what this is it is a glue stick, but it makes your paper like a Post-it note. So it doesn't damage your fabric. If you're going to stick something on the wall, it doesn't damage your wall. It just puts a little surface like a Post-it note on the back of your paper, and it's repositionable. So it works, especially when we're doing things quilting related, and you want to put something, you want to put a piece of paper. Maybe you're using a template and you just want the template to stick to the top of your fabric, the right side of your fabric. Well, you can't use this because it's going to leave glue. It'll go away when you wash it, but if you don't wash your quilt right after quilting, then you got that smudge on there. Well, this doesn't do that. It just holds things together. It'll hold the paper, the template or whatever, to your fabric, and then it will still have that stickiness on the back of the paper, but it doesn't do any damage to your fabric. So that is just a really, really cool product. I have used it. I gave one to the kids because they actually like to put stuff on the wall, and they want to glue stuff on the wall. We can't let them do that. But this doesn't damage the wall. So they had all their drawings and everything all glued all over the wall. It was just beautiful. So anyway, this is the Scotch repositionable glue stick. It's not real expensive. You can buy them 3 in a pack. I got this one for 1 in a pack, but they come 3 in a pack or even more. And definitely something worth it. So then today in the mail, I got And if you've used this, send me an email and tell me what you think of it, because I have not used it. Somebody suggested it. It's the Oda 505, like the spray, you know, the basting spray, only it's a glue stick. So it is what they call a temporary adhesive glue stick. And it's supposed to be like basting. So I've heard many people have told me that when they actually do their glue basting of their binding, they just use what I have here, the Elmer's glue, and they just put a real thin line. And I'm going to actually do a demo on this in a little bit, not now, but I mean, for a tutorial, different bottles that you can use so that this comes out easily and it doesn't blob out on your binding. But then I'm wondering, what about this? Would this work for binding? So if any of you have tried it, please let me know. I'd like to hear your review of it. I know this is relatively, well, it's new in my world. Who knows? Maybe it had been out for a long time. I didn't know about it. So this is new in my quilting world. But if you have used this, please let me know what you think of it. And I'm going to try and play with it a little bit and see if I can't find a good use for it. So that was a little bit of a merry moment as well today when that came in the mail. I was pretty excited to get it. It's just small. I mean, it's bigger than a regular glue stick, as you can see. It's like one of those large glue sticks that you get. But these, I mean, I can buy this at, you know, I buy a whole bunch of these at the beginning of the school year, and you can usually get them for just a couple of dollars for several. This one was a little bit more. I can't remember exactly how much, but not outrageously expensive. It was, I'm sure, under $10. So anyway, I'm going to give it a try and I'm going to see. So that's kind of what's going on in my quilting world right now. Now, I'm going to talk today just for our little tutorial. I'm telling you, it's been a long day. For some reason, when the pets are home and Terry's gone, he's kind of their mentor. They were just up all night, and that kept me up all night. So it was it's always a little tough for me. Just when I have several events during the day. So if I look tired to you, I am. But I will get a good night's sleep tonight, and tomorrow will be a great day. But anyway, let's talk about this non-slip, quick trim, and circle ruler. You know, I'm telling you, Creative Grids comes up with the longest names for their rulers and their products. I mean, that's a long name. I'll never remember that. I have to keep looking at it every time. But when I found this ruler, I thought, what an interesting combo, quick trim and circle. I mean, where does that come together? And so I looked it up because, you know, when they have a QR code on their ruler, you just scan that. If you're sitting there right now, I think you can probably scan it and it'll take you to their video. I was a little disappointed, Creative Grids, in the video just because there was no down view. It was all like viewing it this direction. So I couldn't see a lot of what was going on. And that was a little tough. But they do have these packets with every ruler. You get one of these instructional sheets, and it's really pretty good. It's got directions and pictures, and they're pretty easy. It's upside. Yeah, there we go. It's pretty easy to follow when you need to do something. It tells you what you're going to be doing, and then it gives you the instructions, shows you how you position the ruler and how it works. So I was happy with that part of it, but I like watching somebody do it also. So that's what I want to do here. Now, I'm new at this. I've been practicing all day. I've watched several videos. Quilt shop, somebody from a quilt shop, just a regular quilter who does some product analysis. Or tutorials, and you know, just different people to get their perspective on it. So I looked at a lot, and the one common thread that I got as I was watching this was people were like, "This is my favorite ruler of all my rulers. This is my favorite." And I'm thinking, you know, I've got a lot of favorite rulers, but I never would have thought a circle ruler like this would have been a favorite. Well, I can see why it is now after I saw all the things that it did, and I was really pretty impressed. Now, pretty much for me, when I'm making something, I definitely prefer to go big and cut back. I always make my pieces, if I can, a little bit larger, and then I trim back. It's just helpful to me when I just feel like I'm more accurate that way. Well, this ruler, supposedly, you don't have to do that everything comes out perfect. And I tried really, really hard, and I was really careful. And it did come out sort of perfect in some places. And in other places, I still like my cut big method. But I liked using this ruler in order to do what I did in order to get the product that I got. So I was impressed. I was impressed with it. From one of the tutorials, the lady that was from a quilt shop, she said that they're very reasonably priced because they're small. Creative Grids rulers can be kind of pricey, but we've got the great big huge ones. I mean, when you've got a big old ruler like this, you're gonna you have to pay for the ruler, and there's a lot that goes into that big ruler. This one is actually a 3.5 inch by 12.5 inch. So it's 12.5 inch, kind of like my long 12.5 inch ruler that I usually use. It's 2.5 wide. Only this one is 3.5 wide, and it's got some extra lines drawn on here that are helpful when you're doing particular projects. Now, if you look at what it advertises that you can actually connect binding strips more easily than the traditional method. I found that to be true. It said that flying geese can be made much easier. Okay, that one I found to be true with the go big and cut back. I still went larger when I did it, but I did like the way that it had me trim. It takes some getting used to because I had to keep the instructions to my right, otherwise I would forget what I needed to do. And sometimes for some people that's overwhelming. They just rather forget it, mark the lines and go with it. One of the things this ruler really talks about is that you don't have to mark the pencil lines. You just use this, trim things back, and then go ahead and sew it. And the whole premise behind that is you have to trim anyway. Why not trim without the lines? If you're going to trim, you've got to trim your 1/4 inch seam either after you've marked the line and sewn it, or you can trim it first and then sew it and not mark the line. So you're saving yourself a little bit of time once you get used to the way that it's done. And that makes sense. So I could see that. You also can use this for a snowball block. How to snowball the corners? You'll actually trim back your squares rather than marking the lines on all of them. And I'm telling you, when I marked 125 or 24 squares, this probably would have been, I would have been happy to get this. Now, the last thing that it said it did was half square triangles. But from what I picked up, it only does 3.5 inch half square triangles. It does not, I could not find anything, and I couldn't get it to easily do a 2.5 inch with this ruler. It was made for the 3.5 inch, and I don't use 3.5 inch half square triangles very often, once in a while, but not very often. So it would be okay if I did, but that wasn't a plus for me. I didn't find that to be anything that I was really super excited about. It does show, one of the things they talk about in the video is that you can do like a Y seam or a shadow box sort of look to your block. And you can, I kind of feel like my way of doing it, I'm used to that. So I didn't find it to be anything really innovative for me. But again, for what I saw, I like different tools for different tasks. I like using a ruler that works for something, and I thought this was good. So I'm going to show you what and then the circle. The circle is the other one, and it just has a way of making a circle, which that part I really liked, because the reason, and I'll tell you a little more about that, but there have been many occasions when I've had to or wanted to draw a circle of some sort. And I do have circle templates, but they come 3, 3.5, 4, 4.5. They all seem to be, they were sizes that were just gradually, larger. And actually with this tool, you could do down to 1/4 inch. And I like that. There were occasions where I wanted a weird sized circle. And so what am I doing? I'm hunting around looking for a plate or looking for, a spool, or I'm looking for something, when this actually can take you up to a 22-inch circle, which is gigantic. I can't see that I would ever do that. But it also goes down to, I believe, just a little tiny circle. You can use down to like a 2-inch. You can make a 2-inch circle. So you've got to have a little bit of room because you need to have room for this to turn. But I'll show you how to do that. And hopefully I have enough room here. So let me switch my camera. Hopefully this will be good, and I don't make you dizzy. Okay. second. Okay, so here we go. See where I'm at. All right, let me get my cord out of the way so you're not looking at that. Okay, so the first thing that I'm going to talk about is binding. Now, traditionally, and I just cut some strips here, some 2.5-inch strips. I usually do 2.5-inch binding. You can do, some people do 2, some people do 2 1/4, some do more, 2.5-inch. Whatever you do, whatever you cut your strips, connecting binding strips, the process is still the same. So basically what you're going to do is you take your 2 strips, and these, we'll pretend these are long. And what you'll want to do is you want to place one strip right side up and the other strip wrong side up. So you've got right sides together. Then you'll take your ruler, and I'm just going to use the ruler that we're using here. And what you'll do before, I'll take the pins out. You're going to, I like to position mine so that my point, I have, like, I can see where I'm going to draw. You're going to draw a diagonal line from this end to this end. But sometimes if you move this piece over, you can't see where this piece lines up. So I let it stick out a little bit here, and then I have it a little bit above here so that I know when I draw my line, I'm going to draw a diagonal line, put my ruler right there where that indent is, and then all the way down here to the corner. That's how I can see where my corner is. And then I'm going to draw the line. I do that on every binding strip to connect them. I put pins in it just because. Then I'm going to place this under my sewing machine, and I'm going to sew right on that line. So let me do that. Okay, that's not going to work because I don't have any thread in my machine. I took it out. Sorry. So anyway, I'm going to sew on that. And here's one that's already sewn. Here's, I've sewn on the line. You can see that I've met this point with this point. And then I am going to place the 1/4-inch marking of my ruler right on that line. And I'm going to trim that 1/4-inch seam for my binding. Usually for binding, then we will press that open. So I'll do that. And you do that to connect every single strip. So if you have a quilt that's rather large and you need to connect all the strips together, maybe 7 or 8, you'll make this connection for every one. Now you can see I've got little dog ear here just because of those pieces that were left, and I will trim those off. And then I'll move on to the next one. And that's not ironed very well. Iron's not super hot. Okay, so there I have it. And it's pretty good. I mean, it looks good. Everything is straight. What, again, a lot of people don't like is drawing that line every single time and figuring out, and they call it a mystery line. We don't even know. I mean, I find it's not a mystery when I actually place those pieces like I showed you, with a little bit hanging out here and a little bit then it's not a mystery. But if you put the pieces together like this, you can see where this point goes, but you can't see where this one goes. And that's what makes it hard. So you're guessing. But if I do this and pin it, then I can see, and it actually comes out quite nicely. I had someone that contacted me today, and she said she never does that. She said she never uses pins. She uses glue basting all the time. And she said, I never mark a line. She said, I put it under my sewing machine like this. And she said, I look at where I'm going. I start here and I don't look at where I've been. I always look at where I'm going, which I know is going to be right to there. She said it's perfect every time. Okay, I tried it. It wasn't perfect. So I guess you have to get used to it. For me, this worked a little bit better, but that works for her. And that's great. And she's found a way that she doesn't have to mark that line. She can make that straight seam from here to here. And then again, trim her 1/4 inch and fold it open. So that's the traditional way. Now with the ruler, there's a different way, and they actually show on the instructions, this is under here, binding and mitered border seams. So they also talk about you can do mitered borders. I'm not getting into that because I already know how I do my mitered borders and I'm happy with it. But for this particular one, we start out with our 2, we're going to pretend these are really, well, they are pretty long, I guess. But you've got two binding strips that you want to connect together. The first thing you do is you trim off your selvage, which is that manufactured edge. You don't want that in here. So if you will have, just use your ruler, line it up. There's a line actually on this ruler. It's kind of hard to see on the yellow background, but it's right here and it's right in the middle and it's a white line. And you can actually use that to line up your piece and then make a nice straight cut. So that's one of the suggestions is when you start out, you use that line. So I have trimmed off my selvage edge. You want to make sure when you do this that you put right sides up. This is right side. This is right side. If you do it the other way, it'll be backwards and they won't match. So that's one thing I had to tell myself because guess what I did? I did it backwards. So this is where we've got the pieces that are just like this. They're nicely trimmed. We're going to take our piece and turn it. I just put this pin in here to hold it together. We are going to use the ruler, and the ruler actually has a couple of spaces that are marked. And I'm just going to show you on the back of here. Hopefully you can see it a little bit better. You can see that there's white lines here and here and here. But the 45, this is the unique thing about this ruler, is they have a lot of 45s marked all the way along here in white, and there's one in black. And that's what's going to help you line everything up. I apologize for the glare, but I can't get rid of that. Okay. So we've got all those lines that are available for us to use. Okay. So you know that. What we're going to do, the critical part, and I had to keep telling myself, is right here between 7 and 8. Oh, I wish I had a, oh, here, I'll use this. Okay, yeah, that's good. Between 7 and 8, there is, do you see the X right here? Okay, that's really important. We use this all the time in all these things I'm going to show you. This little spot right here, or this one right here, 7 and 8.5 on this side, but I'm using the one on the white side. This, it works for right-handed and left-handed people. So this is a critical little area you want to pay attention to. Okay, so we've got, I'm going to move this because I can't cut on this, but we've got the right sides together and we want it going this direction. Then I'll show you on here how we position it, and then I'll just actually do it. So here's that little area. The 1/4 inch is what we're concerned about. We want to make sure that we get a good 1/4 inch. So according to this, we want the short edge across the top, and we've got our right sides up, and then the tails are basically hanging off the table. Then we're going to take that intersecting line, that 7/8, right there, and we're going to make that tiny line across the top, and we are going to have the longer line on the left side of the strip. So here's the tiny, see where this is our seam allowance up here. So you can see the tiny line from that X is right here. And then this line is going to line up here. And this is where we're going to trim. The dashed line is our seam line. So when we trim this off, we are going to automatically create that piece that's trimmed and ready to be assembled together. So now I'm going to do it on my cutting mat, which is, like I say, a little harder to see because of the color. But we're going to take that Here's the little edge right there. And then the white line is extending all the way down here. And this is what we're going to cut off. So now, if you like marking the line, you can mark the line, but you can stack these up however many you want, 4 or 5, however many strips, and cut them all at one time. As long as you have the right sides up all the time, you should be good. Okay, so now we've got it. Look, we've got our dog ear is already gone. We've got this ready to go. And now we know when we put a binding strip together, we put it right sides together and they go perpendicular to each other. So, oops, I want to jump off the table. So this is where we're going to line everything up. And you can see this is lined up here. The dog ear is cut off. This is all ready to go. And then we are going to sew a 1/4 inch from here down to here. Some people pin, some don't. I'm a pinner, so I like to do that. And then I will sew right along there, and that's going to give us that same strip. So I did that. I trimmed it and I marked it. I sewed that, and I removed the pins, and look, there we go. It's perfect. It's trimmed, and then we'll just press that seam open, just like we did the other one, and go along your way. So you're not trimming every single one after another, because you can stack them. So that's a help right there. You don't have to mark every line because they're just trimmed and ready to go. And let me iron it. Pressing that open, look, it's beautiful. I mean, it looks beautiful. And then you'll fold it in half, and that will be your binding strip. So I was impressed. I thought, for me, I hate drawing those lines. I don't like doing it on anything that I do, but I feel like for me, that's the most accurate way that I can do it. So that's where the binding seams right here. It shows you, just very simple, shows you where to line up that little teeny line that I showed you, and it works really well. Okay, so that's one. Now the next thing that we're going to talk about are flying geese. And I love flying geese. Some people hate them. I love them. I like making them. I like the way they look. This is a little flying geese. This is a 2.5 by 4.5 unfinished, 2 inch by 4 inch finished. I always use my block lock ruler. It nests right in here, and I'm able to trim. I have not found a flying geese pattern where I have created the perfect flying geese unit without trimming. It just never works that well. We've got bias edges here, and when we put it together, there's always a little piece that's sticking out here or there that has to be trimmed off. If I'm going to do that, I would rather have a perfect unit, and I like using this. This, to me, they come in little teeny tiny, all the way up to big, huge flying geese rulers, and I like this one. The 2 by 4 is the most popular, 2.5 by 4.5 unfinished. And I think it's worth its weight in gold. I love this ruler, so I will not give this up. But usually when you make a flying geese unit, what you'll do is you're going to take, I like, again, to go big. So I take a 2 3/4 by 4 3/4 inch piece, and then I use 2 3/4 inch squares. One's going to go on this side, and one's going to go on this side. You have to do them one at a time. You can't do them both at the same time. So if I would put this on, I would place this here. I would pin it, because I do. And then I would take it over to my sewing machine, and I sew on that line. So you'll draw those lines on every single one of your squares, and they're all, all your flying geese have 2, so you'll have 2 squares per flying geese unit. Okay, so that's where you go on that. You'll sew on that line. Once you've sewn on it, you will trim a 1/4 inch seam on this side and press it over. Do the same thing on this side, then trim the whole unit back to the 2.5 by 4.5 inch size. That's the traditional way. So I'm not going to go into that because you've all done that before. Now, if you're doing it this way, then we'll go to the instructions on here where it says cutting the flying geese units. Now, you can do it with the 2.5 inch square and the 4.5 inch by 2.5 inch rectangle. I did it. Mine was a little short. So I would rather do the large. And I was really careful, but it was a little tiny bit. It was the right size this direction, but it was the wrong size out. It just shrunk in more than what I wanted it to, which means that my seams were in a bit more than they needed to be. So the first thing it tells you is you place the square fabric, but it's not marked, on the right side of your piece. I just pinned that so that I could keep them all together. Okay, so that's pinned. And now you're going to use that same little triangle, that little intersection there that we talked about before. And what we are going to do is we want to make sure that we have our seam plus our seam allowance with no dog ears. That's what we're going for. So we take our ruler, and I have positioned that little short side right here, because our dashed line, the way you can double check, there's all these double checks on here. You want to make sure that this line right here is right across the top, and then that diagonal line, which is going to be your seam, goes all the way from point to point. So easy. And again, once you get going on it, it's hard the first time when you're just learning, but once you get going on it, it comes naturally. So we've lined this up. We know we need a seam allowance. So we're going to take this and we are going to trim. So I'm going to trim, and you want to make sure everything's lined up. And I'm trimming this off. Then you take it over to the sewing machine and you're going to sew your 1/4 inch, which is going to go from this point to this point, all the way down here. Pin it if you want. You don't have to. You can chain piece these, which is really great. You can use clips. Some people use clips. I actually like those new little clips that I got, the ones that are the mini clips, because they really hold nicely. And look at that. As I'm getting to it, then I just take them off. There's no running over pins or anything. I just know I have to pull it out soon. But anyway, that's another. I just use pins. Okay, so you're going to sew that on there, which I have done, and then press it toward this piece. So you can see, it came out nice. I mean, I sewed it, pressed it towards the corner piece, and I'm ready to add the other side. So now again, right sides together, and I place this down. Now here's the difference. Remember this one, we laid it this direction and we trimmed. This one, we're going to turn it 45 degrees. We're going to have it this direction, and then we are going to trim in the same way. So once again, we want to make sure that we have that 1/4 inch. So we find it on my ruler here. And I have my ruler going, my dash line of my ruler going from corner to corner. I have this little line lined up here, and then I have the long, you can't see it on the camera, but this is a line right here that's also on the ruler, that white line, that's lined up along here. So I know everything is straight. And then I'm going to go ahead and trim this side off. So still have not drawn any lines. I haven't had to. All I've done is trim. And then I'm going to sew my 1/4 inch right along here and press it towards that piece, which I have done. And now I've got my half square, or my flying geese unit is finished. What I'll do then is it's oversized, and I will put my ruler, my block lock ruler, and then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to trim all the way around the edge. For me, I just feel like I get a better result that way. Like I say, I did it the other way, and I didn't have good luck with it. It was a little bit off. So I want to make sure that when I actually do my blocks, that I have good blocks that are going to go together nicely. And for me, going big and cutting back is the way to go. So that's what I've done here. And there I've got my perfect unit. So, I can't, it doesn't, this is the same thing. This is the one, and I'll show you. This is the one that I did when I just used straight up the right sizes, 2.5-inch squares. This is the 2.5-inch square. And I used 4.5 inches by 2.5 inches. Remember this one, I used a 1/4 of an inch larger in all directions and then trimmed back. So this was the one that I didn't. And look, you can see when I put this on here, it's too small. Here, it's too small. Here, it's just a little bit too small. So again, adjusting my seam allowance, if I wanted to do that, probably would be a good idea, but I didn't have any other trouble with my seam allowance. So something I did here that I thought, well, if I could do this without trimming, that would be great. But I really don't mind that block lock trim in the end. And I thought that way I've got a more accurate flying geese unit. So everything else, though, was really good. I loved everything about it. I love the way that it came together. And I think it was really easy to do. So that is the flying geese unit. Now, let's say we want to snowball a block. You know what I mean when we say snowball, when we take and we put triangles in the 4 corners. So we start out, it's triangles, but we start out with a square. So we start out with a square, and then normally what we do is we would draw a line like I showed you with the flying geese. We'd sew on the line, trim a 1/4 inch on the outside, and then we would fold it back to get this. Okay, but with this particular unit, instead, we take this and we do just like we did with the flying geese unit. I got to take my pins out because my ruler won't lay flat. But we're going to take where that little section is, 45 and 45. That's the key part of this ruler. And we're going to take and place it so that the diagonal dashed line goes from corner to corner on our square and gives us our seam allowance. So here we go. Trim that back. And look it's all nice. Pin it in place. And sew, which I did here. I pinned it in place because I hadn't cut that one yet. And then we will just go around the block and sew. Here's one that I've already sewn. And then you can put some pressing solution on that line right there, which I always like to do just to give me a nice flat seam. So I will actually put that on there. And then I'm going to press toward that triangle. This I thought went really fast. I really like this because when I'm snowballing a block, it takes forever to keep marking all those squares and then sewing them on. And all I had to do was trim them. And here I've got it. And when I measured it, it was great. This is a 6.5 inch. And it measures 6.5. I mean, I didn't have any trouble at all. And I did not go big and cut back. This just came out right. And it's because that trimming was so accurate, which that's what kind of makes me wonder why the flying geese, maybe I just did something wrong with it. And that's why it didn't come out, because these came out so perfect. And I did the same thing. So anyway, for this to do this, I thought this was great. I thought this was phenomenal. Now, once again, Bonnie Hunter has a ruler that she uses for her half square triangles, and it's for 2.5 inch. And I've used it and it works much the same way this one does, but this one's for 3.5 inch. So, if you really want to use a ruler and not cut back your 2.5 inch, she has a great ruler for that. And she's got that on her website. But if you're doing 3.5 inch and you need an extra, this will do that for you as well. The last thing, let me see, make sure I got everything on here. Yeah, it does tell you how to do that, the half square triangles on here. And that is for the 3.5 inch, but I'm not going to show you that. So the last thing is to draw a circle. And I am working on a pattern right now that I'm going to do a demo fairly soon. And it is really a cool pattern. I'm so excited. I'm so happy that the girl that the woman that actually created the pattern gave me permission to demo it, but I'm working on it. And one of the things is that you have to draw a circle. And she has a little paper template in the pattern that you can use, a little quarter circle, or, you can, if you have an AccuCut, you can use that, which I do. But my AccuCut, I've got a 4-inch and a 4.5 inch, and it wasn't the right size that I needed. And I'm not going to buy another die for that. There are rulers that have grooves in that you can actually use to cut, and that works too if you have one of those. But what you do on this one is, like I said, this ruler, you can do a circle twice the size of this ruler, because this will do half. It has holes punched in it, and you put a pin in the hole and you just make a circle. So if you're making a small circle, that's kind of easy. Making a big one, you need a lot of area to do that. But if you're doing medallions, or if you're doing a compass quilt block and you need a circle, this would be perfect for that. And I'm looking forward to using it for that very reason. So what she suggests is, or what they suggested when I saw the instructional tutorial, was you can do it on your cutting mat, but it's really hard to hold the pin in position to keep everything from moving. I put it on my wool pressing mat. I also tried it on this pressing mat, which it worked just fine. I tried it on a piece of cardboard. Supposedly it was too thin. I think my cardboard was too thin, and I couldn't keep it steady. I didn't like it. My pen kind of pushed into it. Some people have used foam board, and I know that, but again, eventually you start making a groove in it, where I like the way that this works. So this worked for me. This is the circle that I drew. And you can see it's a perfect circle, and I drew this on fabric. And I drew it with my Soline marker, my ceramic lead, which you can use just your regular old pencil. You don't want to use ink, because ink can bleed, ink can get on other things. So yeah, I'd stay away from that. Depending on the kind of circle that you're cutting out, you can always use an erasable marker. What I don't like about that is I don't like when it gets around the edge of the hole when you poke the in, and when you poke the pen in, because the marker just does that, where the pencil, I think it works a little bit better. Anyway, let me show you how this works. This was really fun. Okay, so the pattern that I'm doing actually uses freezer paper, and I needed a square for that. I needed a circle. I need a square freezer paper, and then I needed a circle to cut out. So I had this freezer paper, and what you do is you fold it in quarters, and then fold it again, because you want to find the middle of your paper. You don't want to start your circle going around and then run out of paper. So you want to make sure you begin in the middle. So this gives you your middle point, or you could measure it, on your cutting mat or whatever. But there's the center right there. And I'm going to take my pencil and I'm just going to mark that center so I know where it is. This is paper, so I'm not worried about, getting it all over my fabric or anything. Then what the ruler has is it has these little tiny holes, and these are called the pivot points. So you can do any 1/4 of an inch of any size. So depending on where you put your ruler, your pin, your anchor pin, if I put it in this one, that means I'm going to do 1-inch increments. If I put it in this one, then I am actually going to do, this is actually an 1/8 of an inch, but it'll make a 1/4 because, we're going larger. So it'll be a 1/4 of an inch smaller, and so on. Right here, it's going to be on the 1/2 of an inch because it's lined up with the 1/2 an inch. So you can figure what size you need based on where those little pivot points are. That's where your pin is going to go. So I'm taking my pivot point, because I'm just going to make a solid, let's just do a 4-inch circle. So I'm going to put my pin in the pivot point, and then it needs to go right in that hole. And I can see it. When I lift my ruler up a little bit, I can see where that center mark is. And then I just push it way in, because I want to make sure that's anchored in there. I tried using a push pin, didn't work. It came out. But the pin, just this yellow-headed pin, worked really great. And, I never use these hardly anymore. So I have probably about 7,000 of them, and they'll last forever making circles. Anyway, so let's say we are going to make a 4-inch circle. So we know it's going to be 4-inch around. So we need a 2-inch radius. Here's my 2-inch, and this is where I'm going to put my pen. Now I'm going to move this back because my ruler is going to hit my computer. But what I do is I just put my pen in there, and then I just do this. Oh, there, I knew it was going to hit it. I bumped it a little bit, so it's going to be a little off, but that's only because I did it. Look at that. Isn't that fun? And there I've got a perfect circle. Look at that. It's perfect. I went all the way around. It's a perfect circle. And for what I'm going to be doing, I can cut that out as needed. And I know that this is just, you know, there's no wobbliness, no nothing. I don't have to worry about when I went around, you know, using a saucer or a cup or whatever. It just came out really nice. So it works well on paper. And again, this is my ceramic pen. So then I thought, how's it going to work on fabric? Well, as you can see, I did it on fabric, but I'm going to show you again. This one I did a little bit larger just to see. And if you look at this one, this is actually across 6 inches. So this is a 6-inch circle. So that's 3 inches from the center point out. Now I marked it on the wrong side, so it didn't matter that when I marked that center with a pencil, it didn't show. So again, you do the same thing. You're going to fold it in half, fold it in quarters. Oops, I want to make sure it's lined up right. You don't press it. You don't have to press it or anything like that. And then once you open it, I want the wrong side up, which it is. And then I'm just going to take my ceramic pen. And you can, this one's nice because it's got white and it's got pink. And I'm going to do pink just because I don't want it to be too dark on this fabric. So then I'm going to take my pivot point and I'm going to use the one because we're going to do a 6-inch. So I'm going to put it here in the first hole, in the 1-inch hole, and then make sure I can see it. It goes right down through that pink. And then 1, 2, 3. So I'm going to put my pen in here and I'm going to, I probably should have done the darker one so you could see it. I can see it, but you probably can't. And there we go. And I have a perfect pink circle, or here I have the same thing, only a perfect dark circle. So it really does do a great job. I mean, who would have thought a ruler that does flying geese, half square triangles, snowball blocks, binding, and circles? It just, it just was bizarre. But when I got it, I'd heard so many things about it that people were talking about. Oh, this is the best ever. And I wanted to try. I wanted to see if it really was the best ever. It was pretty good. Sorry, I got the pipe sitting here in front of me. Let me get that out of the way. Okay, so I have not had a chance to look at any of your questions, if there are any. Please let me know if you have any questions about this. Alex, did you see anything? If you do, let me know. If you have a question about this particular ruler, like I say, Creative Grids has a great video. You just go to their Creative Grids site and you look for whatever the name of it is. I said I always forget. Quick Trim and Circle Ruler. So that's what it is. There's the QR code down in the corner and right here. And you can go ahead and watch their video. I didn't like that I couldn't see down. Maybe there's a better video out there. I don't know. But for the one that I looked at, it was just sort of front on. But she still did explain all the different things that it can do. And she said that there are actually some more even complex things that it can do that she was going to get into. I don't know if that ever happened. But in the instructions, it just had that little bit. So anyway, I hope that was helpful to you all. I love to try different rulers and products and things. And let's see. Oh, Susan Wiggins, I'm sorry that Sounds like we've got some sad news on your end, and I'm sorry about that. You know, it seems like we always have something going on in our Joyful and Merry Quilting community, and we're able to offer some kind of support to each other when we have something happen. And I hope you felt that here, Susan. I know that there are many occasions where we just don't ever know what to do or what to say, and we just, I think being together and being a part of a group is what's really huge in my opinion. And just being a part of a community, especially like-minded people when we're quilting together, always makes me feel better. And I've shared stories about that before, but again, I'm sorry about that. And please pass our condolences on to your friend. Is there anything else? I think that's probably it. Well, I'll tell you, everybody, I'm going to take it easy and go upstairs and visit with my dog and put my feet up. I hope you can do the same thing. And tomorrow I'm going to be back at it. So have a wonderful, absolutely wonderful day. I'm always trying to be joyful, but I will always be merry. And I thank you all for being patient with me tonight when we had our little snafu. But remember, if that ever happens, just go back to the live streaming page and we'll start her up again. We just, we just have to keep trying. Sometimes technology just isn't with us and we don't know why. So thank you, everybody. Thanks for being here. If you have any questions, please let me know. And we will see you if you're interested. Daytime quilting is the first Wednesday of the month. So we have that coming up next week. And then we'll have night owl quilting again on the second Monday. So we'll see you then. And I don't know what we're doing, but I'll let you know when we get close. Watch your email. Thanks, everybody. Thanks for coming.